I did the same thing again today. Took a bite of the snack bar right beforehand.
We'll get you trained up.
And now I'm hungry because I've decided I'm going to order a burger from Baumholler's in about an hour and a half.
That can happen.
All right. As everything is shutting down here for about 2 weeks. Maybe about 3, I thought you said April 17th. Dave Schultz, Stephen Root, Sports Radio 105.5 WNSP. One of those draft picks top the NFL draft is the Detroit Lions. That seems to happen on a regular basis, Root. Sorry. It's Chris from the Detroit Lions podcast. Chris, how you doing, man? I appreciate your time.
Great. Great, Dave. Thanks so much. Great info. Right. Great intro.
Yeah,
Hunkering down here.
Yeah. So, yes. Are you doing okay up there? Michigan seems to be having issues.
No, we're doing fine here. Okay. We just keep the door closed and keep the delivery man outside. Everything's all right.
All right. All right. So far, what do you make of the Detroit Lions offseason? They seem to have made some pretty good moves.
Yeah, it sure looks that way. They've set themselves up for where they're sitting in the draft too. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about that, but they've kind of in some ways signaled who they're after and set themselves up for what really are the prime 2 possibilities.
What do you make of what happened when Slay got traded and sort of spilled the beans on Matt Patricia?
Yeah, that was tough. You and I, we talked to Patricia at the Senior Bowl, and while he things have changed for him. His first year was a little bit tougher. He was a first-year head coach. I get it. Came from a completely different culture. It takes time when you get a rookie head coach to get them coached up too. So while I don't stand behind what he said, because it didn't work. I feel like Darius probably could have handled it a little better on his end as well. But at this point, it's like, hey, good luck. Nice to see you on your way, and we're going to do something different here in Detroit now.
So how did Patricia adjust from year 1 to year 2?
Well, from what we can see, first off, his relationship with the media has improved. He's done things a lot differently. He talked about how in year 1, he would try to make himself available to anybody who wanted to talk to him. And what that created was a situation where he was late for a lot of meetings. And people were really getting frustrated with, when the big guy can't make the meetings, how can you expect me to be there on time for the meetings, right? He adjusted a lot of that, did a lot better time management, and put some controls in place with how he deals with folks. And like I said, when we were at Senior Bowl this year, we saw a happy, smart, well-put-together guy who interacted well with the media and seemed to be have good footing underneath him.
Well, that's interesting because the 2 times that I offered him free chicken wings and then to come on my radio show, he's like, I got to go to the meetings. And I said, well, the meetings don't start until you get there. So I realized that didn't go over as well as it maybe should have as a joke.
Yeah, and he's a guy you think should be on a high-protein diet, right?
Right. We're talking to Chris with the Detroit Lions podcast. What was your favorite move of the offseason?
I think Jamie Collins. For years, we watched the Detroit Lions getting destroyed by tight ends. The fact we have a linebacker that can cover these guys across the middle should really, really help us. Also gives us some signals towards the draft that maybe Isaiah Simmons isn't the guy we're looking for this year to fill a hole.
And so right now it seems that the top 5 teams in order are going to draft Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Okudah, which is the Lions spot, either an offensive lineman or Isaiah Simmons for the Giants, and Tua for the Dolphins. Do you agree with that? Is Okudah going to the Lions?
I think. Well, the Lions are going to get an Ohio State defensive player one way or another. It all depends on where Washington goes. They don't have a second-round pick, and there's a lot of talk that there's some teams like Miami who really want Tua and may work a trade out to get up and take Tua there. That leaves Chase Young on the board, and if he's on the board, that's the guy the Lions take. No questions asked on that. It fills a massive need, and the way they've set themselves up in free agency is we either need a edge guy who's going to help with a lower tier corner or a top tier corner who's going to help with having less of a pass rush, which is a real issue for Detroit. So we've kind of positioned ourselves for either Chase Young or Jeffrey Okudah, depending how things unfold ahead of us.
Now, is there a chance that the Lions trade out and go back to 5 and they still end up with Okudah?
Yes. And that's the dream sequence, right? But that puts the Giants in a position. It really looks like they should go offensive line. I can't see them necessarily going for Jeffrey Okudah and stealing him out from under us. But boy, would that be a problem if we got neither Chase Young or Jeffrey Okudah and had traded back to 5. It gives us a lot of opportunity for capital to pick something else up. But those are the top 2 guys in this draft. You're talking Burrow, Okudah, and Young are real generational talents. And you really, if you can, you want to walk away with one of those 3 guys for sure.
I mean, I know it's not the guy that they've been talking about, but if you guys get more picks and Isaiah Simmons, that's not the worst thing in the world.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I'm not down on Isaiah Simmons in a bad way. I would much rather see Okudah roll in at 5 and get those picks, and I'd be whistling Dixie all day long.
Chris from the Detroit Lions podcast. All right, we know this was for most of the season, but can you confirm if it was for the whole season? Did the Detroit Lions have a lead in all 16 ball games this year?
It wasn't all games. There was one or two, and I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was just at the end.
We didn't have the lead. I know that for regulation in both games against Green Bay, we had the lead for 60 minutes, and still lost with a kick at the end. Thank you very much.
Well, that's why I think if they're over under somewhere, it was around 4 or 5, 5.5. I'm going to be all over it because some of those games are going to go their way that didn't go their way last year.
Absolutely, and you're going to have a number of games with Matthew Stafford healthy. Knock on wood this year, which makes this like a completely different Lions team. He is absolutely the heart and soul of that offense, and he elevates that play like nobody else on the team.
All right, so then let's say, isn't there 2 years left on Mr. Stafford's contract? What if they decide to take Tua?
I don't think that Bob Quinn is a very safe GM. And that injury history with Tua is really scary. Now, I know the Bengals are locks on Tua, but there's been some rumblings, on Burrow. There's been some rumblings that maybe they go for Tua and Burrow falls, and that the Redskins take Chase Young because Rivera wants that killer defensive line. Joe Burrow falls, I tell you, we will take him. Tua is not the guy that this team is going to take, but Joe Burrow really throws a wrench in the works for management of this team to manage their way through the fans and how they deploy Matthew Stafford and his contract in the ongoing future.
So you think? Well, hold on, I just got confused. You think that Cincinnati may end up taking Tua?
There's been some talk about that's bubbled up today. I'm not putting my eggs in that basket, but it's just starting to. You know how rumors are. It's the silly season. There's just talk bubbling up that maybe the Bengals are excited about Tua and think his ceiling's a lot higher than Burrow's. Only his one really proven season. See,
I saw it as the other way around. Miami goes and gets Burrow, and the Bengals trade down to 5 and take Tua.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's another possibility for sure. Burrow's the guy. He's the guy that if he somehow landed in the Lions' lap, he's the one guy that would come in and put the question marks around Matthew Stafford. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, but he's the one guy that could make it happen.
So you're telling me in this conversation we have heard the possibility of the Bengals screwing up the 2020 draft and the Redskins screwing up the 2020 draft. And Root, I told you, I happen to think the teams that draft well are going to be able to take advantage of what's going on now. Teams like the Saints and the Patriots and the Cowboys who seem to draft well on a regular basis. And, I don't know, Andy Reid and the Chiefs could draft well. And Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, they seem to draft well when they don't have all of the information. As Jeff Schultz said, all these guys have all the information all the time and they still screwed up. I think it's going to be tougher for some of these teams, not necessarily at the top, to make a mistake.
Yeah, I think it's really cut and dry this year. The treasure will have to be big for these guys to really screw this up. But there's a reason they're drafting first and second this year.
Right.
They're not the most well-run organizations. And so I'm sitting here talking about the Lions at third, right? But when you don't have your quarterback for over half the year, that's what's going to happen in the NFL. You saw it with Joey Garoppolo going down for San Fran the year before.
All right. So what is the ultimatum from Martha Ford for this regime? Is it playoffs or bust?
Well, it's the letter she wrote and the meeting she had was playing relevant football in December, which seems like a low bar. But when she met with a very core few folks in the media, the word is that it's really playoffs or bust, barring some kind of something crazy happening. So it is playoffs or bust. You see a Matthew Stafford injury. Obviously, that's something that's out of this group's hands. I think this team is really going to come alive. They've really refreshed the locker to their vision. I'm not seeing Bob Quinn making kind of desperation, save the job kind of moves. They're building for the long term. So I think we've got a good front office working, good coaching staff getting their pieces surrounding them. I expect a big improvement out of the team this year, and I think meaningful football in December is an absolute certainty for this team, barring something like a crazy injury.
All right, Chris, from the Detroit Lions podcast, I appreciate your time. Please stay safe, and we'll probably talk to you around draft time as well.
You too, Dave. Thanks a lot, man. Great to talk to you.